On today's edition of Cronkite Sports Live, the defending Big 12 champions finally begin their quest to return to Arlington with a trip to North Texas, funny enough, as they take on the Baylor Bears in Waco. We have everything you need to recap you on the last week.
ASU women's soccer took down number 10 BYU last night, and they're still undefeated. We got highlights and more from their hot start to the year.
And on top of that, ASU volleyball is meeting some rocking expectations to start the new year. All that and so much more as Cronkite Sports Live starts right now. Quote Luke Combs, we are getting back in the saddle. And not only is Centerville football heads to the Lone Star State this week, but also for us here in Studio 6. Welcome to episode 2 of season 23 of Cronkite Sports Live. My name is Max Cepeda, and this to my left is my friend, your friend, the DMV Zone, Ryan Myers. Ryan, a busy week as we enter the late months of September.
Yeah, Max, well, it's a time to hop on our own saddle as well, but Arizona State is hopping on a saddle across the pond in 2026. We got breaking news yesterday from Brett McMurphy at On3, who reported that ASU and Kansas will be facing off at Wembley Stadium in the inaugural Union Jack Classic. The London matchup is set for September 19th, making it the first Big 12 game for both teams. It's also important to note this is a Kansas home game, so the Mandems still have 6 games at Mountain America Stadium in the fall. The last time the Sun Devils played overseas was all the way back in 1990 when they lost 62-45 to Houston in the Tokyo Dome in Japan. Cougars QB David Klingler threw for 714 yards, an NCAA record at the time, but of course, a pretty decent QB by the name Patrick Mahomes surpassed him in 2016. Max, I wonder whatever happened to that Patrick Mahomes guy.
I feel like he's pretty good now, I would say so. And hey, that Cougars team was elite. But speaking of cats, ASU fans don't really like cats, any type of cats, as the Bobcats of Texas State returned to Tempe. And how about this catch to open things last Saturday as Agent Zero, Jordan Tyson, able to grab one and moss a defender for 36 yards. And then the start of the second quarter, you already know this. If you're not living under a rock, you've seen this play before. Levitt off his off foot, Tyson staying in bounds, leaping over a defender, and able to get the first touchdown of the game for the Sun Devils. But on the very next drive, Brad Jackson, Texas State's quarterback, trying to get a pass up the middle, but a fumble forced by Keith Abney, and the ghost, Miles Rouser, able to pick it up and take it the other way. Ryan, you could probably say this was the most complete performance from ASU's defense, at least in the first 3 weeks of the season. But 2 plays later, Levitt again using those legs. Joe Tessitore once said that he's so wiggly out there, and he was certainly wiggly on this play, breaking multiple ankles and getting ASU inside the 5-yard line, making it a 20-3 Sun Devil lead at the break. But on to the third quarter we go. Jackson again. He was labeled by many on Texas State's coaching staff as their Tim Tebow. He showed it there with that athleticism as he was able to cut it to a 3-possession game, but ASU growing the lead again. 2 words, Raleek Brown, 75 yards to the house, the longest ASU rushing touchdown since 2016 in Kalen Ballage, 34-9 Devils after 3. In the fourth quarter, well, kind of just pleasantries. Jackson able to find his tight end in the back right corner of the end zone, that being Kylan Evans, and then Jeff Sims doing his job, making sure no one gets hurt, taking a knee, and that would be the end of it. 34-15 is the final, a massive bounce-back win for the Maroon and Gold, now 2-1 on the season, and of course, with the analogy of the week, here's Dilly being Dilly.
Well, after a much-needed response in Tempe to a poor result in Stark Vegas, the defending Big 12 champs head to Waco as 2.5-point dogs to open up conference play. Facing a Baylor Bears program also sitting at 2-1 with a marquee double overtime win over a ranked SMU team in Week 2. And they could certainly cause problems. Redshirt senior quarterback Sawyer Robertson just inked a deal with Nike earlier today, and for good reason. He leads the Big 12 in yards per game with 356, over 45 more yards than any other quarterback. His 6'4" frame makes him a nightmare in the pocket. And offensive coordinator Jake Spavital loves to air it out, letting Robertson throw the ball 45 times per contest, with an ASU secondary already struggling with injuries. The Sun Devils definitely have their work cut out for them on that side of the ball. Out of the backfield, redshirt senior sophomore running back Bryson Washington is a beast as well. He's already notched 4 touchdowns this year, giving the Bears a scary 1-2 punch. However, the defensive side of the ball has been an issue for Baylor. They've given up 30 points per game, the second worst mark in the conference. But the green and gold have played some fun games thus far, and they're averaging 38 points per. So safe to say we'll see a shootout along the banks of the Brazos Saturday night.
Now, you've probably heard the term thrown around the Big 12, describing the conference as not deep, but wide, making the case that the winner of the league year in and year out must thrive on surviving close games and winning the margins of football, a trend that ASU thrived in last year with a 7-2 record in one-possession games. And to say that the trend is expected to continue is an understatement. For more on how ASU looks to live on the edge as defending champs, here's our Reese Goodall with the season premiere of The Big Picture.
As Arizona State gets set to open its second campaign in the Big 12 against Baylor Saturday night, let's take a look at some of the contenders from around the conference. Following ASU's title last year, the Big 12 is once again up for the taking in 2025. One of those teams that could take the crown is a familiar face to the Sun Devils. Former Pac-12 foe Utah could be prime favorites with head coach Kyle Whittingham in his 21st season in Salt Lake City. Now with a strong quarterback in New Mexico transfer Devin Dampier, the 3-0 Utes are no stranger to conference titles as they won the Pac-12 in 2021 and 2022. ASU plays them in Utah October 11th. Another team in the running is the Texas Tech Red Raiders. The Red Raiders haven't scored less than 40 points all season long and have averaged over 600 yards of offense in each of their 3 opening wins. They take on Utah this weekend, which could provide a clearer picture as to who the Big 12 favorites actually are. ASU plays Texas Tech at home on October 18th, a year after that disappointing road loss in Lubbock. Next is Iowa State, the team that ASU knocked off to claim the Big 12 trophy last season. With head coach Matt Campbell and quarterback Rocco Becht returning, Iowa State could be looking for vengeance in 2025. However, they'll have to do so without star receivers Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, who carried the team in receiving yards but are now both with the Houston Texans. ASU takes a trip to Ames on November 1st for the title rematch. Other teams that could have a run for the Big 12 title are this weekend's opponent Baylor and TCU, who ASU also plays next week. All in all, for ASU to be named the Big 12's best in 2025, they'll have to beat the best, as the schedule sees them going against all of the preliminary favorites in the conference. Guys?
Thanks so much, Reese. And the reason why ASU has a chance to be the best yet again in 2025 heavily rests on the man they have under center in Sam Leavitt. After all, he was the preseason pick for Offensive Player of the Year. However, since Leavitt has been in Tempe, there is one specific offensive style that he has thrived in better than any other. But to say it's been smooth sailing for the sophomore this fall is a stretch. For more on number 10's comfort zone, here's WCSN football reporter Tyler Wise.
The play-action pass, when a quarterback fakes a handoff, hoping to catch the defense off guard. Play action was a staple of ASU's offense in 2024. Pro Football Focus, commonly known as PFF, charted 38.5% of quarterback Sam Leavitt's dropbacks as ones that featured play action. Over the first 2 games of 2025, the Sun Devils cut that number nearly in half, with just 21.6% of Leavitt's dropbacks featuring play action. Last Saturday against Texas State, ASU's offense brought the play action back. More than 2/3 of Leavitt's 22 dropbacks featured play action, a sign the Sun Devils might be going back to their roots. Because the Bobcats had to account for running back Raleek Brown, Texas State was especially susceptible to the play fake. For ASU's offense, the shift in play calling gave boosts to both Leavitt and standout receiver Jordan Tyson.
Being as run efficient Raleek had like 150 yards, being able to run, and then play action pass off of it makes my job easier, especially when all the linebackers are tucked away in the box.
On the night, Tyson had 6 receptions for 105 yards. Of those totals, 3 catches and 84 yards came off play action. When it comes to who's throwing the football to Tyson, shifting back to more play action is playing to Sam Leavitt's strengths. This season, Leavitt has a passer rating of 129.4 on play action passes a huge difference with non-play action passes as that number is 48.6. One thing to look out for as the Sun Devils travel to Waco on Saturday night is if this trend in play calling continues. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Tyler Weiss.
Well, redshirt junior running back Raleek Brown transferred to ASU ahead of the 2024 season, but he couldn't stake his claim last year playing behind Cam Scadaboo and dealing with injuries. But so far in 2025, Brown has taken Tempe by storm. Our WCSN football reporter Ethan Ignatowski has more on Brown's hot start.
Raleek Brown came out of Mater Dei High School in 2022 primed to be a star at the next level. He helped lead the Monarchs to a California Open Division and national championship. He earned a 5-star designation from Rivals, and he received a scholarship from USC after head coach Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma for sunny LA. Unfortunately, he also had to fight against the current. Limited touches and a nagging early season ankle injury limited his production as a freshman, and when he returned for his sophomore year, the coaching staff moved him to wide receiver, where he appeared in just 2 games before redshirting and entering the portal. Brown found a new home as a running back in Tempe, but only appeared in 2 games as a redshirt sophomore as more injury troubles kept him sidelined. With 3 disappointing seasons under him and a Cam Scadaboo-sized hole to fill in the running back room, Brown entered the 2025 season fully healthy and with a purpose. Prior to week 1, he had a message to his teammates.
Smell blood. Ready.
Brown must have listened to his own advice. He flashed his explosive ability against Northern Arizona, and in week 2, against Mississippi State, he rose to the occasion when starting running back Kyson Brown left with an injury, rushing for 110 yards and helping to spearhead an ASU comeback attempt. Still, it was all just an appetizer for week 3 against Texas State. Brown torched the Bobcats defense, recording 144 rushing yards on 12 attempts and finishing just behind quarterback Sam Levitt in terms of total yardage. He also produced one of the highlights of the game, taking a Levitt handoff 75 yards downfield for a touchdown. It's taken some time and a roundabout journey, but Raleek Brown is finally starting to establish himself as one of the stars of ASU's offense. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Ethan Ignatowski.
Well, ASU soccer was in action last night, and our time starts here in the 8th minute. Here's Baltadano across the 6-yard box. Cameron Valderas getting the first goal in the game for ASU. They struck early under the rain at Sun Devil Soccer Stadium. 1-0 was the score at the halftime break. Second half of action, Valderas across the box, and 1 shot, 2 from the Sun Devils, but it wouldn't be enough to get past Peyton Collins. She had 5 saves on the night for the BYU Cougars. A pretty impressive game, but in the 50th minute, it will be Baltadano who got a goal of her own. ASU went up 2-0, and they looked like they were on the brink of a major upset here, but it would not be over just yet. 30 minutes to go. Pauline Nellis called into action there, making an easy save. And here again, we got Presley Freeman on the side here now, getting a goal back with 5 minutes to go. ASU would have enough time, though, to wind down the clock. That would be all she wrote. The Sun Devils improved to 8-0-1 on the year, getting a 2-1 win over a top 10 BYU side. Here's Graham Winkworth talking about how his team hasn't cracked the top 25 yet, but he doesn't really care.
I mean, I hope they don't vote us again. I hope we stay unranked all season long, keep winning, because when I see teams that have been ranked above us, that have lost to teams that are not undefeated, and have lost to teams that we've beaten comfortably, I don't really understand the rankings, so I don't really care for them. If we're ranked, fantastic. It would be a nice thing to post, etc. But ultimately, those rankings don't get you in the postseason at the end of the year. Wins do so.
Now, Graham Winkworth has had his fair share of bright moments leading Sun Devil soccer. But to say that more often than not, mediocrity, I should say, has been what's clouding over his program has been fair to say as well. But now, with the ladies on the pitch, off to their best start to a season since the turn of the century, the optimism may finally be returning to Tempe's 120 yards of finely bladed grass. To break down the ins and outs of Winkworth's squad and where it goes from here, here's the debut of WCSN soccer reporter Mia Bensich.
Arizona State soccer entered last night's matchup undefeated in non-conference play with a stellar 7-0-1 record. Although this gave the Sun Devils confidence heading into Big 12 play, they would have their hands full Thursday night against the number 10 BYU Cougars, who were fresh off a Final Four appearance just last season. In this huge test to see where ASU truly stacks up, the squad passed that test with flying colors, upsetting the Cougars 2-1. The key to this victory was the stellar Sun Devil defense. Goalie Pauline Nellis totaled 2 saves last night, and although this number may seem low, it was due to ASU's backline holding BYU to only 4 shots on goal, well below their season average. Up ahead in the midfield, last week's Big 12 Freshman of the Week, Addison Baltodano, made her mark, assisting ASU's first goal and scoring ASU's second goal. Baltodano is a local product from Basha High School and is proving to have a bright future ahead for the Maroon and Gold. Another huge storyline of the game was the return of last year's Big 12 Freshman of the Year, Kiera Blundell. The striker hadn't played at all in the non-conference slate due to an undisclosed lower body injury, and her return for ASU is huge. The Sun Devils came off the field ecstatic, as this was their biggest win since beating number 3 UCLA in 2020. With this upset in the books, ASU is on everyone's radar, and only time will tell if this will kickstart some conference play momentum. Back to you guys.
Well, Sun Devil Soccer took down one Big 12 powerhouse last night, defeating number 10 BYU 2-1 at Sun Devil Soccer Stadium. But the conference has 2 other top 25 teams and plenty of formidable opponents. ASU started their conference slate off to a hot start, but with a long way to go, our WCSN soccer reporter Harrison Fuller has more on the Devils' future opponents.
Arizona State women's soccer was undefeated going into Big 12 play and is looking to make a splash in its second year in the conference. The Big 12 is known to be one of the better in college soccer, with teams who can light it up on offense, like TCU and Colorado, with the Horned Frogs and the Buffaloes both being top 20 in the nation in scoring offense. But there are also teams in the conference who are incredibly stout on defense, like Houston and Baylor, with the Cougars and the Bears both ranking in the top 11 in shutouts this season. The teams in the Big 12 may all be strong, but their strengths are all different. Head coach Graham Winkworth has high praise for his new conference, which he says is much different than the Pac-12.
In the Pac-12, the teams were a little easier to prepare for because most of the teams really try to play a certain style of soccer in the Pac-12, whereas in the Big 12, there's a bigger variety in the way teams play. You might play on a Thursday against a team that likes to pass the ball like Barcelona, and then you might play on a Sunday against a team that doesn't make 3 passes consecutively but can be equally as dangerous.
For the Sun Devils this year, their success runs through their veterans like senior goalkeeper Pauline Nellis. Nellis is currently top 30 in save percentage in the nation and top 20 in shutouts. For Pauline, she has a clear set of expectations for herself to be successful in the Big 12 for her final year as a Sun Devil.
I just need to have a clean sheet, good game, good performance, and then, hopefully a win.
Following last night's upset over number 10 BYU, its 6th consecutive home win, ASU Soccer is continuing its scorching hot start. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Harrison Fuller.
Thanks so much, Harrison. And while the ladies on the pitch have been exceeding expectations, the women in maroon and gold on the court have been meeting them, as Sun Devil Volleyball remains the 8th-ranked team in the nation as they enter their final weekend of non-conference play. But with ASU winning just one of their 3 marquee top 10 matchups to start the year, JJ Van Niel knows that his team has very little margin for error. And for more, here's WCSN volleyball reporter Andrew Montana.
Arizona State Volleyball is approaching its final 3 non-conference opponents this weekend in the Sun Devil Classic. Until now, the Sun Devils have had a strong season with a record of 6-2, enough for ABCA to rank them number 8 in the nation. After winning the Big 12 last year and hosting the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament, ASU has big expectations and hopes of competing for a national championship this year. However, the Sun Devils are 1-2 against ranked opponents this season. In its second match of the year, ASU defeated the reigning national champion number 2 Penn State in 4 sets, clinching the highest ranked victory in program history. Soon after, the Sun Devils were swept against the number 9 Pittsburgh Panthers, where, despite dropping the match, the worst loss of the night was an injury to star opposite Naomi Glover. ASU's next top 10 match came against the number 2 Texas Longhorns, where they were swept once again. The first and third sets against Texas were rough, as ASU recorded hitting percentages of just 182 and 147, as well as losing each set by an average of 6.3 points. Since Glover's injury against Pitt, teammates such as Bailey Miller, Tatum Parrott, and Ella Lomigora have found themselves with big shoes to fill, but effective offense is much harder to come by in her absence. To reach its lofty goals, ASU will have to improve in matches against top-tier opponents. The Sun Devils will look to carry over that dominance starting next week when conference play begins. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Andrew Montana.
Thank you, Andrew. And from the hardwood to the mountains this week, Sun Devil Golf battled in the peaks of Utah. Their trip to the Wahali Classic gave them no margin for error, but an impressive Day 3 scorecard got them over the hump. WCSN golf reporter Joseph Chirino breaks down ASU's performance.
Earlier this week, the Arizona State men's golf team put on their climbing shoes and scaled 6,000 feet above sea level to play at the Wahali Classic. The field was composed of a plethora of tough opponents, with BYU, New Mexico, and Utah being the strongest foes, but the Sun Devils came out on top, tying for first place with New Mexico. The Maroon and Gold were led by junior Connor Williams, who finished tied for first and attained his first ever collegiate win. Entering the final round, Williams had the lead, and with all eyes on him, he delivered an impressive 2-under par performance with only one bogey on the day. The Wahali Classic featured a familiar setting to newcomers Boston Bracken and Bowen Moss, with the two freshmen growing up in the Beehive State. The two new bloods are no stranger to success in Utah, as Bracken won the Utah Junior PGA Championship in 2022, and Moss won the 127th Utah State Championship just this past July. The freshmen performed well on home soil, with each of them finishing inside the top 25 and scoring crucial birdies to contribute to the team's result. The Utah backdrop wasn't the only familiar face for Moss, since he competed alongside his older brother, Jackson Moss, who plays for BYU. While the Moss brothers weren't the stars of the show, they each shot 2 under par in the first round, helping their respective teams get off to a hot start. This won't be the last time the Mosses compete against each other, and with round 1 going to Bowen Moss, Jackson will be looking for a rematch. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Joseph Chirino.
Thanks so much, Joseph. And even with the lack of sports that may be currently in action in Tempe, it doesn't mean that there aren't any Sun Devils making waves outside of their time in the Maroon Gold. In the case of ASU Wrestling, which has consistently been one of the more dominant programs in the Valley, one of their own just achieved one of the sport's highest accolades. For more, here's our Caleb Harris.
Zahid Valencia brought home a gold medal from the World Wrestling Championships in Zagreb, Croatia. Valencia is no stranger to gold, winning 2 individual national championships while at ASU. The former Sun Devil put on one dominant performance after another, defeating opponents from India, Algeria, Latvia, Iran, and Japan, all without giving up a single point. He posted a 49-0 point differential, better than any other men's freestyle wrestler. Likely his toughest challenge was the Iranian Kamran Ghasempour, a 2-time world champion and many fans picked to win gold. In the first period, Valencia's relentless pressure created 2 late takedowns and a 5-0 lead heading into the break. With 3 minutes left, Valencia's defense stayed stingy, eventually winning 7-0. Valencia realized the caliber of his opponent, but was unfazed.
What's too small? The king is fallen. Everyone says king, camera. Not no more.
After the upset, just one match stood between Valencia and a lifelong dream. He wasted no time, taking down Japan's Hayato Ishiguro in the first minute. He kept that pace, needing just 4 minutes and 23 seconds to earn a tech fall in the World Finals. This capped off his dominant weekend and cemented his place in wrestling history. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Caleb Harris.
Let's round off with some top plays. Number 5, Cam Scadaboo, a former Sun Devil playing for the New York Giants, scoring his first touchdown in the NFL. Should have started him in fantasy.
Well, the G-Men did lose, Ryan, but what team didn't lose was ASU football, and the fact that they dominated over Texas State was primarily because of these two, Levitt and Tyson, going up to get a spectacular catch to kick things off.
We've showed these soccer highlights to you, but we got them one more time. First goal coming courtesy of Cameron Valderez across goal, and another one going here from Baltadano. And this is not just a highlight because of the goals, but for what it means for the team. ASU defeated their first top 10 team since 2020. A great game for them in Sun Devil Soccer Stadium.
Absolutely was. And then on to number 2, 2 words. We already mentioned it earlier. Raleek Brown. He was smelling blood, and he found some blood as he went 75 yards to the house. ASU's longest rushing touchdown in 9 seasons, and of course, showing that Southern California personality in the celly.
Well, if you hadn't seen this play, you're definitely living under a rock. Look at Levitt there, finding Tyson for a beautiful grab, and up and over he goes, diving into the end zone. Jordan Tyson got the touchdown. Arizona State football got the win, and a great win for the Sun Devils in that matchup.
Now, Ryan, we have been covering ASU football. I've had the privilege to do it for nearly a year and a half at this point. But one of the things that has been kind of reoccurring since last season is that I have been primarily our reporter going on road games, Cincinnati, San Marcos, Lubbock, you name it, Arlington last year, Atlanta. But now, for the first time in nearly a year and a half, we have a different reporter who's going to be traveling as our good friend Dom Pacella is literally in the air as we speak, 30,000 feet, heading to Waco, Texas for what should be a spectacular game along the banks of the Brazos against Baylor.
Yeah, it's going to be a thriller, Max. He definitely got a good one there. We're excited for Dom. We'll have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. But for all of us who make this show possible every single week, and of course, for my main man, Mr. Ryan Myers of the DMV, my name is Max Cepeda, and we'll see you next week for a special Friday night, game night edition of Cronkite Sports Live.